What's up, guys? We are back looking at the Washington Commanders going on the road to take on the Philadelphia Eagles here in Week 11 Thursday Night Football action. Let's jump in here and find the best value on the side and over-under, and while we're at it, let's find some of the best player props of the night. On top of Thursday Night Football, we have 5 NCAA basketball games we're going to break down as well. If you want to win all of your bets here on Thursday, hit that like button. It's good luck and shows support for the channel and all the hard work we're putting in every single day. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on our daily content. You can now also sign up for a channel membership by clicking the little join button right below the video. Members get exclusive early access to all NFL and college football videos and get their names up on screen just like right now. I really appreciate the support from all of you. Seeing that little badge next to your comments absolutely warms my heart. Our videos are sponsored by StumpTheSpread.com. We have a team of experienced cappers over there for every major sport, currently covering NFL, college football, NBA, UFC, NHL, and NCAA basketball. This is one of the best times of the year to be in the mix with so many sports going on. Click the link in the description if you're interested in signing up, and also to join our free email list to get the occasional free or premium pick straight to your inbox. Comment below with any bets you're looking at today, and we will give you our best advice on all of them. We are committed to responding to every single comment every day, so let us know anything you want to say about my picks, these videos, or anything you see here. As always, our favorite picks will be in the pinned comment down below. Now let's get into this Thursday Night Football matchup between the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles. The Commanders come into this game, guys, fresh off a tough 1-point loss there against the Steelers. It's looked a little bit rough, I would say, the last 3 weeks, ever since that blowout win over Carolina. I'm just not really feeling it for the Commanders. They're still 7-3 on the season, so plenty of reasons to feel good. And yeah, I mean, losing by 1 point against a pretty good team like the Steelers isn't really something to hang your head about, but they didn't play great, guys. Jaden Daniels only completed 17 of 34 passes, no touchdown passes. He was sacked 3 times and only passed for 202 yards. Like, just not the normal performance that we're used to seeing from him. He also didn't run the ball effectively. 3 running attempts there for only 5 yards. Austin Eckler only had 44 yards on his 13 carries, so not really a transcendent day for him either. He did have 2 rushing touchdowns, so that's good. Jeremy Nichols found the other touchdown there for the Commanders, but yeah, just kind of a rough night out there in general for the Washington offense. I mean, we did see Terry McLaurin. He put up 113 yards there on 5 receptions, caught 5 out of his 6 targets, so he's somebody we're definitely going to be keeping in mind when we look at those player props, but just overall, not an amazing day out there for this Washington offense, which has been, by the numbers, one of the best offenses in the NFL this season. So we'll be seeing if they've got a little bounce back in the tank for this game, but it kind of feels like a big ask. They did only have 1 turnover in the game, so that's not terrible, especially against a pretty good Steelers offense, but we'll see what they can do in this one. Yeah, I'm not really expecting miracles out there necessarily, but this has been a good offense this season, guys, so there's a chance they could have something of a bounce back game, but I don't think it's, against the easiest opponent here either, so we'll see what they can do. On defense, guys, the Commanders did not have a good time against Russell Wilson. I guess he only completed half his passes, but he had 3 passing touchdowns. He was sacked 3 times, was picked off once, but yeah, the Commanders also struggled a little bit against the running game, especially when it was Jaylen Warren with the ball. So yeah, just not a great look. They gave up 140 rushing yards in that game. Yeah, they only generated, they generated 2 turnovers. So I got to give them some credit there. 2 turnovers, that's nice. Warren, lost a fumble there, and we also had that interception by Russell Wilson. So not necessarily a disaster of a game there by the Commanders defense, but they did, struggle against George Pickens kind of predictably, and they're, going to be going up at least against 1, if not 2, very solid wide receiver options in this game. So yeah, things not exactly looking amazing for the Commanders defense. They're 12th in the NFL, giving up 21.7 points per game, but when you look at the teams that they've had tons of success against, it's like holding Carolina to 7 points or Cleveland to 13. Like against the Bengals, a pretty good offense, they gave up 33 points. Against Tampa Bay, that was back in week 1, they gave up 37 points. Against Pittsburgh, not the best offense, they gave up 28. So not really a defense that I'm exactly sold on. So we'll see what they can do in this game. Looking at the injury report here for the Commanders, lots of issues right now for them on offense. Brian Robinson Jr. is questionable with a hamstring issue. He was limited in practice on Tuesday, so his availability is very much up in the air. I think there's a real shot that he misses this game. There are 3 dudes on the injury report there on the offensive line for Washington, and playing on a short week here, we have very little clarity on whether or not they're going to be available here on Thursday night, but it seems pretty clear to me that this offensive line not going to be at 100%, and going up against a team like the Eagles, that probably doesn't feel great. So definitely plenty of concerns there for Washington on offense. On defense, guys, Farrell, he is questionable there on the defensive line. And in more exciting news, it's being reported that Marshawn Lattimore not going to be making his Commanders debut this week. So still not going to be seeing him out there. Not going to be a full strength defense here for the Commanders. And they're probably going to need it, guys, as they go on the road to take on the Philadelphia Eagles, who come into this game fresh off of an absolute demolition of the Dallas Cowboys last week. They're technically the top team right now in the NFC East. They're one loss better than Washington there. So yeah, pretty solid stuff for the Eagles. They didn't have the smoothest start to their season, but then the schedule got a little bit easier and they started to knock off win after win. In that blowout win there at Dallas, it was pretty cool. We were on the Eagles in that game. It was an easy cash for us. Jalen Hurts, a good game. He was picked off once, so that's not great, but 202 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. He was sacked 5 times, but he's a guy that likes to hold onto the ball and scramble around a lot, so that's not a huge concern. Saquon had a mediocre day by his standards, but he has been having a transcendent season, so I'm expecting good stuff from him in this game, no doubt about it. Jalen Hurts did run the ball 7 times for 56 yards and 2 touchdowns, so I shouldn't be ragging on the guy too much. He accounted for 4 touchdowns in that game, so pretty good stuff there from Jalen Hurts overall. And yeah, the Eagles had a good day running the ball, no doubt about that. We saw A.J. Brown have a big game. He caught 5 out of his 7 targets for 109 receiving yards, so a great game for him. He had a 44-yard reception, so yeah, more and more good stuff to look at. Devontae Smith didn't have a great day, but we'll be looking more into that once we take a look at that injury report. Hurts did fumble the ball away once, so that's a concern, but generally speaking, guys, there's not a lot of negatives to find in a game where the Eagles got a 34-6 win. So yeah, pretty good stuff from them on offense, although, there were some small mistakes that could have been fixed, but on defense, they looked fantastic. Obviously, they're going up against 2 backup quarterbacks, but they dominated Cooper Rush. They dominated Trey Lance. They forced 3 sacks and 1 interception. Obviously, any day your defense gives up single-digit points, it was a fantastic day. They did a good job of holding down the Dallas rushing attack. The Cowboys put up 24 carries, but only 97 yards there. So, yeah, just a positive after positive. They did a great job of limiting CeeDee Lamb and, Jake Ferguson out there. Albeit, a terrible quarterback situation for Dallas, looking like that's going to be their reality for the rest of the season. But yeah, they forced 4 turnovers there, 5 turnovers total. Just a crazy day there for the Eagles on defense. Obviously against a very easy opponent, but still something you want to take into consideration here. And the Eagles have been a pretty good defense overall this season, guys. They're only allowing 17.9 points per game. That's tied for 5th in the NFL. They did give up 23 points against Jacksonville the other day. That's not a great look, but holding Cincinnati to only 17, that's a fantastic look. And really their only terrible defensive game of the season was when they just got obliterated there at Tampa Bay. That was a pretty weird one. But we do like the Eagles defense in this matchup and just in general. And in terms of their injury report, things are looking pretty decent for the Eagles offense. I mean, the offensive line is completely good to go. Devontae Smith is questionable for this game with a hamstring issue, and he did practice in a limited way on Tuesday, so there's a chance he'll be ready for this game, but I don't know, guys. Hamstrings are a sketchy deal, so we'll see if he plays, see if he's at full strength. Dallas Goedert is dealing with an ankle problem, but he also practiced in a limited fashion on Tuesday, so there's a chance he'll be ready to go as well, but there's also a chance he ends up sitting this game out. I don't think we'll probably see both of those guys sit out. It's not impossible, but either way, I don't think it's the end of the world if they don't end up suiting up for this game, but obviously we would prefer to have them out there. On defense, the Eagles are looking pretty healthy, guys. Dean is questionable there in the linebacker group, but he practiced, so he should be fine, and Darius Slay Jr. had an ankle injury against Dallas, but came back into the game. I fully expect him to play in this game and be maybe not 100%, but I would say pretty close to 100% out there. In terms of the weather for this game, guys, definitely something we want to take into consideration. It's looking like it's going to be mid-40s out there. Definite chance of rain showers is looking pretty likely. I mean, well over 20 to 30% throughout the course of the entire game. So seems like it's probably going to rain. It's going to be a little wet out there. I do not think we're going to see a crazy amount of wind, though, which is obviously a bigger consideration. Looking like 6-mile-an-hour winds gusting up to 9, so nothing in the double digits. So I don't think we have to be like too terrified about the weather situation, but it seems pretty clear it's going to be a little bit cold, a little bit wet out there. So definitely not ideal playing conditions, but I would say playing conditions that both teams are pretty much used to, playing over there on the East Coast. So I don't think we have to worry too much about the weather in this game, but definitely want to be taking into consideration that it is going to be a wet day out there on the field. So looking at the trends for this game, Washington, they are 7-2-1 against the spread this season. Obviously, they've been one of the hotter against the spread teams in the NFL this year. They are also 7-3 to the over with that offense that had been looking pretty good, but now seems like it's hitting some bumps in the road. The Eagles, guys, they are 5-4 against the spread this year. They are 5-4 to the under. So yeah, a little bit of an under lean there for the Eagles. In terms of our side in this game, guys, I'm looking at the Eagles here coming off of a pretty easy game. They should be, fairly rested and ready to go for this one. Yeah, Washington obviously coming off of an excruciatingly tough game, and we're seeing the Eagles here now at -3.5. I do wish it was -3 instead, guys, but I think -3.5 is just fine. Definitely liking the Eagles in this spot quite a bit. I mean, either way, taking Philly here, playing at home, despite their, a little bit of a struggle closing out games this year, I'm not too worried. Their secondary is very good. Their defense in general is looking elite right now. They're currently 4th in the NFL in points allowed. I don't think we have to worry too much about this defense, guys. I think the Eagles are in for a very, very good game out there on both sides of the ball. So definitely give me the Eagles in this one. I'm also leaning towards the under here. I'm expecting the Commanders' offense to struggle. I don't really think we see the Eagles putting up insane offensive numbers. They're going to run the ball and control the clock in this game. I'm expecting big things from Saquon Barkley. I think Jalen Hurts is going to have a good game, and all of that is going to translate into, the Eagles having the ball a lot, the Commanders having the ball a little, and not a crazy amount of points going up on the board there. And yeah, with a total, guys, of 48.5 and some kind of wet conditions, I don't think you can go too far wrong with taking the under. Now that we've got our leans out there on the side and the over-under, guys, let's go ahead and take a look at some player props here. And first up, guys, we've got Jaden Daniels. I think he's going to have a little bit of a rough night, guys. I'm taking him under 224.5 passing yards at -115. He barely cracked 200 yards in the last 2 weeks, and that was going up against the New York Giants and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, that Giants defense, not so good, guys. The Steelers defense, pretty good, don't get me wrong, but Jaden Daniels just not looking like himself right now. So I'm expecting him to have a little bit of a hard time out there. Somebody I don't think is necessarily going to have a hard time is A.J. Brown. I like him over 89.5 receiving yards in this game at +105, so a very good price. The Washington Commanders defense, obviously not that great. We've got Smith and Goddard possibly both hurt for this game, which just means more targets out there for A.J. Brown. And even if those two guys do play, he's going to get plenty of targets, has a great chance to end up over this number, and I don't think they're going to be at 100% if they do play. So definitely like A.J. Brown to have a big game in this one. You could also take him, to score a touchdown in this game, anything like that. I expect good things here from A.J. Brown. In terms of, kind of a negative prop here, guys, Devontae Smith here under 49.5 receiving yards at +110. I think that hamstring injury is going to keep him limited. If he does play, I don't think he's going to soak up a ton of targets, and I don't think he's going to look great after the catch. I don't think he's going to be creating great, separation there from the secondary. So generally speaking, I think he could have a bit of a rough game out there. And yeah, he hasn't been a guy that put up cartoonish kind of numbers this season. So I do think this is a spot we could target him to possibly struggle a little bit. A guy I don't think is going to struggle all here is Saquon Barkley. I like him at 100+ rushing yards at +110. Easily over this number in 3 out of the last 4 weeks, guys. He's coming off a bit of a down week last week, and I don't think we're going to see the Commanders really be able to stop him here, and definitely, the Eagles are going to be more than happy to run the ball with him. So, yeah, I think Saquon is going to have a big game in this one. You could also take him to score a touchdown in this game. You could take him, combine these two, 100+ rushing yards and a touchdown, something like that, but I think Saquon in for a very good game. On the same side there, guys, Jalen Hurts, I like him over 224.5 passing yards at -125. He's been over that number in 2 out of the last 3 weeks. This Washington defense is not amazing. I'm a little bit worried that he could have limited pass catching options out there, but generally speaking, guys, I do think this is a pretty good spot for Jalen Hurts to have a big game. You could also take him to score a touchdown in this game. I wouldn't think that was crazy at all. Last but not least, guys, McLaurin over 59.5 receiving yards at -130, guys. He's been over that number in 3 out of the last 5 weeks. He's coming off a massive week last week, and just getting to 60 receiving yards doesn't seem too crazy to me. Washington probably going to have to be throwing it in this game. I think they're very likely to be, trailing in this game. So, yeah, definitely if you're looking for a positive Commanders prop there, I think McLaurin is in a pretty good spot in this game. Now, guys, changing gears a little bit, we're going to hop over and take a look at some NCAA basketball action. First up, we've got the Southern Illinois Salukis going on the road to take on Oklahoma State. This game is going to be played in Stillwater, Oklahoma, so a home game there for Oklahoma State, no doubt about that. Southern Illinois, they come into this game 1-1 on the season. They, beat their cupcake matchup their last time out against a non-Division I opponent. They did take a tough 90-80 loss there against Charleston to start their season, but Charleston, not a terrible team team. Southern Illinois did keep things competitive in that game, eventually losing by 10, and quite the shootout. We saw Charleston shoot 45% from long range. We saw the Salukis really struggle from deep, only 5 of 21 from them. If they had shot the ball a little bit better, this game could have been even closer. They did struggle on the boards, which is something of a concern, but we saw Elijah Elliott scored 23 points. He looked like a monster out there. We did see 3 starters scoring double figures. The bench didn't look amazing, but it didn't look terrible either. I mean, Sykes coming off the bench, putting up 8 points wasn't bad. He also had 7 rebounds, like a good energy guy coming off the bench. So generally speaking, we don't hate what we're seeing from Southern Illinois. Obviously, they're still looking for their first real win of the season, but they came into this year projected around 152nd nationally. They were picked to finish 5th there in the Missouri Valley. I think this team might have the pieces to, make things a little bit more competitive than that, but we'll see what they can do here. Obviously, I mean, they're going on the road to take on a bit of a tougher opponent in the Oklahoma State Cowboys, who they're 2-0 on the season. They got the win to open their year against Green Bay. Then their last time out, they played a very, very close game there against St. Thomas, Minnesota. They won that game 80-71, so a W there for the Cowboys. They stay undefeated here in the early goings this season, but not exactly a game, not exactly a performance you want to write home about. St. Thomas, Minnesota, guys, not a team projected to finish super, super high up there in, the college of basketball rankings this season. Oklahoma State really had to, put the screws to them, had to really concentrate there in the second half to edge out only a 9-point win. We saw, just not great play there from the Cowboys starters, guys. Their leading starting scorer was Bryce Thompson. He was 4 of 10 from the field, scored 11 points. It was really guys they brought off the bench that helped them win this game. They were even on the boards, which is a bit concerning against what should be a much smaller and less talented team. We did see Avery coming off the bench. In his 25 minutes, he scored 23 points. He got to the line 8 times. He was 8 of 12 from the field, had 3 steals out there, so he was absolutely hooping, but other than that, not a lot of big positives here for the Cowboys. They shot 27.3% from three-point range. They got to the line 28 times. That's really what made them win this game. They got to shoot 28 free throws. Their opponent got to shoot 10. So definitely seemed like, St. Thomas, Minnesota got a little bit homered in that game. So something we're going to be keeping a close eye on. Oklahoma State did not come into the season highly touted, guys. They're projected 98th nationally and somewhere around the bottom of the Big 12, somewhere around 14th there. So yeah, not a ton of hype around the Cowboys who, SIU, they are 0-1 against the spread this season, 1-0 to the over. Oklahoma State 0-2 against the spread and 1-1 there to the over-under. Guys, Oklahoma State 9.5-point favorites in this game. We've got an over-under of 156.5. I'm going to be leaning here towards Southern Illinois and the points. I don't know if this is going to end up in the pinned comment, but I would say it's got a chance, guys. I think the Salukis definitely have what it takes to make things a little bit rough here on an Oklahoma State team that is being a little bit overvalued in my opinion. I think we see a close game in this one. And in terms of that over-under of 156.5, I'm leaning a bit towards the over. I think both teams can score it well enough to make this an exciting, high-scoring game. And yeah, only getting to 157 total points doesn't seem too crazy to me. Next on the docket, guys, we're looking at Northern Iowa. They're going on the road to take on Wichita State, and they are going to be playing this game in Wichita State, Kansas, guys. So a home game there for the Shockers. Northern Iowa comes into this one 2-1 on the season. They're fresh off of a loss, that is true, but they they did their thing in their first couple of games, earning some blowout wins over, not a great team in their first one, but getting the 87-68 win there over Milwaukee. Not a bad look at all. Northern Iowa played great in that game for sure. Got to give them some big props. They shot the ball really, really well, 50% from three-point range. They did okay on the boards. Not amazing, but okay. Only turned the ball over 13 times, which obviously isn't amazing, but it was good enough, and we saw all 5 starters score in double figures. So that was a very nice game there for Northern Iowa. Unfortunately, going up against UC Irvine in their next one, they ended up losing that game by 20 points. So not necessarily an amazing performance. Obviously, their shooting took a little bit of a step back, but nothing insane. They still shot 41% from three-point range, but they just didn't have the size and athleticism to bang there on the boards against the Anteaters, who are actually a pretty good team this year. Somebody that we'll be keeping in mind for future reference. But generally speaking, guys, we've liked what we've seen from Northern Iowa this season. They came into this year projected around 100th nationally, but picked to finish second there in the Missouri Valley. So those two don't really go together. We'll see how things shake out, but I do think Northern Iowa has the stuff to be a pretty decent team this year. We'll see what they can do as they go on the road here to take on the Wichita State Shockers, who are 2-0 on the season. They're coming off of a couple nice wins, getting the win there at Western Kentucky there, 91-84. That's a good win, and they knocked off Montana State their last time out, winning that one 89-69. So a blowout win there, albeit not against the toughest opponent. In terms of, in the production there against Montana State was nice. I have to give Wichita State credit there. We saw them shoot the ball mediocre. This is going to be a team that gets up a ton of threes. They were only 3 of 12 there from distance, but they got to the free throw line 26 times. They out-rebounded Montana State. They only turned the ball over 6 times, so definitely a clean game out there from the Shockers, no doubt about that. But yeah, just not a team that's really going to scare me too much shooting the long ball. So that's something to keep in mind. They did have 4 out of 5 starters scoring double figures, so that's nice. They cleared the bench. They played a lot of guys in that game, but yeah, just maybe not the best outing, and not like it was against the toughest opponent either. So they're definitely going to have to step it up here a little bit going up against Northern Iowa. Wichita State projected around 104th nationally. They were picked to finish 5th there in the American, so we'll see if that prediction can come true. Northern Iowa, they're 1-1 against the spread. They're 2-0 to the under this year. Wichita State, 2-0 against the spread, and 2-0 this season to the over. Guys, the Shockers are minus 6.5 in this game. We've got an over-under of 151.5, so a pretty small number. I'm going to be leaning slightly towards the over in this game for sure. I think 151.5, just not a very big number, and especially with the way Northern Iowa can shoot it, I think we could see a high-scoring game. Speaking of Northern Iowa shooting it, guys, I think this is a spot to take the underdog once again. I think Northern Iowa keeps this to a 1 or 2 possession game pretty comfortably down the stretch, and as long as they don't have some terrible shooting night, which hasn't been the case here lately, I think they can definitely keep this thing very, very competitive against a Wichita State team that used to be there playing in the Missouri Valley. So definitely some history between these two programs. Next on the docket, guys, we've got a nationally televised game. We've got Grand Canyon. They're going on the road to take on Arizona State, guys, in a game that's going to be played in Phoenix, Arizona. So definitely a home game there for the Sun Devils. This game is going to be broadcast on ESPN2. The Grand Canyon Lopes, guys, they come into this game at 2-0 on the season. They got a kind of tight win there over, CSUF. So yeah, not an amazing win there, but they righted the ship, guys, and got a win there over Western Kentucky. It was only a 2-point win. The Lopes definitely seem like they're getting off to, I'm not going to say a slow start necessarily, but definitely still a team that, maybe resting on their laurels a little bit. This is a team that's projected to, finish very high here in the, they were projected 58th nationally and to finish first there in the WAC. So we'll see if they can make that dream a reality. Obviously riding high after last season, a very good team, no doubt about it, but we'll see how they can hold on here in their win there against Western Kentucky. They didn't shoot the ball particularly well from deep, only 4 of 17 from 3-point range. They did a great job of getting to the free throw line, made 22 of 29 free throws, and they kept things even there on the boards. They only turned the ball over 12 times, so had the edge there in the turnover battle for sure. We saw Colin Moore put up 23 points. He was 2 of 2 from deep, 7 of 11 from the field overall. The starters really played well, guys. We had 3 starters scoring in double figures for Grand Canyon, and just a pretty good game out there. So they're going to be hoping to carry that momentum over here to take on a Big 12 school. This is what this, Grand Canyon team is supposed to be good at, going up against what's projected to be better competition. We'll see what they can do playing here at Arizona State. The Sun Devils come into this game 2-1 on the season. They actually kept things very, very competitive in the last game, playing against then number 6 Gonzaga. They lost that game 88-80. So we'll see if they can replicate that performance, guys. Some pretty crazy stuff happened in that game, though. We had Huff scoring 21 points off the bench there. So yeah, Gonzaga really needed everything they could get. Arizona State, we had a 22-point score there. Jihad scored 22 points on 7 of 14 from the field. He was only 1 of 4 from 3. Just in general, Arizona shot 9 of 29 from 3-point range, which isn't terrible, but isn't great. We saw Gonzaga crush them on the board, so that's definitely a big concern here. And the Sun Devils turned the ball over 10 times, which isn't that bad, but yeah, just not a great game out there from Arizona State. I do think they can play a little bit better than that, but I don't know, guys. It's looking a little bit rough to me for an ASU team that was projected around 70th nationally and picked to finish 12th there in the Big 12. So not a team that has a lot of faith behind them, guys. Looking at the numbers for this game, Arizona State, they're getting 3.5 points playing at home. We've got an over-under of 49.5. Grand Canyon, they're 0-2 against the spread this season. They're 1-1 to the over-under. Arizona State, they're 2-1 against the spread and 2-1 to the over. So first up, guys, I definitely think this is a spot you want to be looking at over 149.5. That's probably my favorite part of this game. My favorite bet on this game would be to take that over because both teams, they're going to get up and down a little bit. They're going to shoot it for sure. And I think this is definitely a game that we see crack 150 total points. That doesn't seem crazy to me at all. In terms of the side, I'm going to be leaning just slightly towards Arizona State and the points. They played such a good game there against Gonzaga that, yeah, I mean, I think they should definitely be able to keep it close against Grand Canyon and keep this to a one-possession game, if not better, especially since Arizona State is playing this game at home. So we'll see what happens, guys. Definitely liking the over in this game. Moving right along here, guys, we're looking at LSU. They are going on the road here to take on Kansas State. The LSU Tigers come into this game 2-0 on the season. They haven't really been tested too hard. I mean, yeah, getting a blowout win against ULM and then, a win there over Alabama State, not really that impressive, guys. And that game against Alabama State was, I'm not going to say close, but it was borderline competitive. So yeah, LSU really not having been tested too much so far here in the early goings. I mean, in that win over Alabama State, we saw some positive things. They shot 35% from three-point range. They got to the free throw line 34 times. I saw a ton of free throws in this game in general. They actually lost the rebounding battle there against Alabama State, so that's a pretty big concern. And yeah, they relied a lot on Cam Carter and his 21 points. Jordan Sears put up 18 points as well. Carter had a great game shooting the ball. Sears, not really so much. Yeah, just a lot of work done at the free throw line. And guys, this LSU bench looking pretty freaking thin, guys. They only had 12 points scored from the entire bench, and some of those guys played some pretty big minutes. So definitely have some questions about LSU. Did not seem like they were super locked in for that game. So yeah, gonna have to turn it up a little bit here. The LSU was projected around 73rd nationally. They were picked to finish 15th in the SEC. So not a team that comes into this one highly touted. On the other side, guys, Kansas State, they come into this game. They were picked to finish around 28th nationally and 8th there in the Big 12. So we'll see if that can come true here for Kansas State, who they're playing this game at home in Manhattan, Kansas. Like, this is a home game for Kansas State, no doubt about that. They come into this game fresh off of a nice win there against Cleveland State, guys. They played pretty well. It was a 74-64 win against, maybe a little bit of a tougher Cleveland State team. We'll see how that works out over the rest of the season. But generally speaking, Kansas State played pretty well in that game. They shot 52% from three-point range. They got to the line 26 times, but only made 15. So the free throw shooting, definitely something of a concern. We saw Brendan Howson, guys, a great game from him. 22 points, 6 of 9 there from three-point range. The bench is a concern for us here for Kansas State, though. Not a ton of bench production, despite quite a bit of bench minutes getting soaked up in that game. So we'll see what happens. Really a battle of two teams that I'm not excited about either team's bench, but we'll see what they can do here, guys. LSU, they are 1-1 against the spread, 1-1 to the over-under. Kansas State is actually 0-2 against the spread this season. They are 1-1 to the over-under as well. Kansas State, they are 5.5-point favorites here playing at home. We got an over-under once again of 149.5. I'm not super interested in that over-under. I would maybe side just slightly towards the under, but like I said, guys, not an over-under spot that I like. I do like Kansas State here at -5.5, though. I think they're due for a solid game. I think they win this one comfortably against an LSU team that hasn't really looked great here in the early goings and did not come into the season projected to be very good. So definitely give me the Kansas State Wildcats at -5.5 in this game. Last but not least here, guys, we are looking at the Omaha Mavericks. They're going on the road to take on the UNLV Rebels in a game that's going to be taking place there at the Thomas Mack Center in Las Vegas, Nevada. So a home game there from UNLV. Omaha comes into this one fresh off of a tough loss at Minnesota, but a good loss, guys. They lost that one 68-64, so kept things very competitive. They got a nice win in their second game, their first real game of the season, as they went to Stetson and took down Stetson 79-76. So we've seen good stuff here from Omaha in the early goings. Keeping things so close against that Minnesota team is pretty impressive for, a team coming out of the Summit that not a lot of people thought were going to be great. They were picked to finish 7th there in the Summit. Yeah, Omaha played really, really well, guys. They ended up only shooting 30% from three-point range. They had 37 rebounds, which gave them the edge there on the boards, which is very impressive. They had 16 turnovers in the game. They could have limited those mistakes. They really had a chance to win this game. We saw 3 starters scoring double figures. We had 19 points scored off the bench there. Glover and White coming off the bench both looked very, very good in the game. Great at running the offense, good on the boards, and they shot the ball pretty well. So really a lot of positives to look at for Omaha. Despite being picked to finish around 300th nationally, they are surprising some people here out of the gate and definitely put Minnesota on the list. They could have lost that game, no doubt about it. So we'll see what Omaha can do going on the road to take on UNLV here. The Rebels are 1-1 on the season. They got a easy walkover win there against Alabama State, winning that one 93-79. But Their second game, guys, they could not handle Memphis. They ended up losing that one 80-74 to fall to 1-1 on the season. UNLV, they were projected around 80th or 90th nationally. They were picked to finish 7th there in the Mountain West, and they didn't look great against Memphis. Not, I mean, the highest of Memphis projections this year, but yeah, we did see Thomas Jr. score 22 points there for the Rebels. They shot 36% from three-point range, so not a terrible shooting day. They got to the line 26 times. That's more times than Memphis. They kind of got crushed on the boards, guys. I mean, maybe not crushed, 39-33, but didn't have an amazing time on the boards. They only turned the ball over 10 times. What I'm getting at here is not the worst playing, not the worst game there from UNLV, and they still almost lost, or they still lost that game by 6 points. So yeah, a bit concerning here for the Rebels coming into this one, guys. UNLV is minus 16.5. We got an over-under of 146.5 in this game. Omaha 2-0 against the spread, 1-1 to the over-under. UNLV 0-1-1 against the spread, and 1-1 to the over-under themselves. Guys, this is not an over-under spot that I'm interested in. 146.5, maybe play the over. I don't know. Don't care about that. I love Omaha and the points here. I think they keep this game at least kind of competitive against UNLV. The Rebels will probably win this game in the end, but I see it being an 8 to 10 point game way more often than I see this being some sort of blowout for the Rebels. So definitely give me Omaha playing on the road in this one. I think this pick has a great chance to end up in the pinned comment. And don't tell anybody, guys, but this could end up being a premium pick at stumpthespread.com. That's all the games we have for today, guys. Hit that like button for good luck on all of your bets and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Let me know in the comments any questions you have on today's slate. Thanks for watching. You can click the link in the description to check out stumpthespread.com, and we will see you guys tomorrow for more sports betting action.